Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm going to do a Q&A video to mark the fact we've hit 300,000 subscribers, which is an unbelievable accomplishment. But before we do, I just want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for your support over the years. I really, truly appreciate it. Also, stay tuned until the end of this video because there's a free giveaway. You don't need to buy a ticket, there's no catch, there's no strings attached, just something to say thank you. Right, first question. First question then is from UK7866. How do you fit in sleep and personal time with such a hectic work-related responsibilities? Congrats on 300k. Simple answer is that I don't really. It's a constant battle, constant juggle. That's something that I'd like to try and balance a little bit better going forward, but we'll take each day as it comes. Next one then, Mr. Springy has asked, well, congratulations Matt. My question is, if you knew back when you started out what you know now, would you do it all again? Yeah, I think so. I wish I'd started the YouTube channel earlier. I wish I'd done it 2 or 3 years before I did. But yeah, no, I'd do it all over again, I think. I think if I were to do the car sales thing again, I've learned an awful lot over the years, so I would do that slightly differently. But you never know when you start these things up, do you? It's all a learning curve. Bantam Neil 12 has asked, my question would be, in your opinion, who makes the best all-round cars that lasted the test of time? That's a good question, actually. It depends on the climate really as well, doesn't it? Because here in the UK and in a lot of other places with harsh climates, things just rot away. It doesn't matter how well built or engineered something is, it will still rust. There are loads. I mean, straight away you'd say somebody like Honda or Toyota, wouldn't you? But then if you go to Italy, you'll see loads of old Fiats from the 70s and 80s. I suppose it depends on what era as well. Because for example, Mercedes in the 80s and 90s made some really solid cars that are still on the road. Volvo, yeah, there are lots really. I would say cars from the 80s and 90s really were probably better built than they are today, or far less complicated anyway, therefore easier to keep on the road. FiveYear Plan has asked, what's the worst car you've ever sold? There are lots of bad ones, to be fair. There are lots of bad ones, especially in the early days. When I was down at my last forecourt, my last pitch, I would sell a lot of just cheap cars under £1,000, so obviously they're not going to be the best cars. I'd sell some cars even without an MOT, just spares and repairs, cars that had either come in part exchange that were fit for the scrapyard, but I knew somebody could break them for more money. So there were lots of cars like that were sold just, you know, as is. By Dalio HD has asked, do you work alone on the YouTube channel, or is there anyone behind the scenes doing bits for you? Well, for about 3 months I've now got a team. It was me in the early days until quite recently. But now I've got a couple of people now that are really talented that help me out with it. And they, I think, have great patience dealing with all my mistakes, mislines, stuttering, swearing, road rage, all that sort of stuff. So no, it's much easier now. I've got a team. Amma4397 has asked, would you ever consider doing a trading up series in the States or Australia? I think your knowledge of cars and buying and selling would make a really good watch and also help grow the channel. Best of luck. Yes, definitely. I don't know how or when I could do this because it's going to be difficult trying to juggle all my other responsibilities and then go somewhere for a couple of months. But I would love to do something like that. That'd be really interesting. You know, just land somewhere completely unknown and then try and figure it out for myself. I think that would make for some quite interesting videos, to be honest. So yeah, possibly. Definitely, I just don't know when. Will Offer 7119 has asked, question regarding I have overspent. What's the biggest loss you've made on a car? Oh, there are loads, to be honest. There are loads. I always say this, but the car business is it's just a numbers game. I need to sell 30 cars a month and hopefully the majority of those will be profitable, but a couple of them will be either break even or a loss. The biggest loss I've made, usually when I've got to put an engine in something, this has happened only probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times over the years, which is pretty good going really. But you'll sell a car, it'll break, and then it'll need an engine, so you've got to put an engine in, which might cost 2, 3, 4 grand. I've had to do that a few times. So obviously you just can't recoup your costs. So I can think of 3 or 4 cars that I've lost 3 or 4 grand on. Probably best not to dwell on those. Jaden169 has asked, I was wondering if you'd ever considered letting viewers submit the cars for you to review. I'm sure many viewers have very interesting or unique cars. I'd love to start doing that, to be honest, because I'm kind of running out of my own cars, or you know, there'll be a lot of repeat cars before I know it. It would be a bit of a logistical challenge, wouldn't it? to drive all over the country to borrow cars. Then of course I'm on roads that I'm not familiar with. It's doable and it does kind of excite me, but I don't know whether I would. I've said this before I think, but I also prefer filming with my own cars because I know if I damage it, it's my own problem. I'd hate to damage somebody's pride and joy. Touch wood, that's never happened, but you never know. Little Ovi has asked, do you think your business has grown through the channel success? Definitely now. It took probably, I didn't do this to try and help promote my car sales business. I did this as a hobby and it's kind of now grown into its own thing. But it probably took 3 years or so of the YouTube channel being in existence before I noticed any extra footfall at the garage. But it has definitely helped. I think people know me then, so they know that the cars that I've got for sale have been thoroughly prepared and I do try my best. So I think that has massively helped. There are no two ways about it. FlyMe195 has asked, have you ever considered doing an outtakes or bloopers video? I have, but I don't know. I do try and share some funny little bits occasionally on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but I don't know. I think it would be a bit too sweary. And I do try and keep my videos nice and family friendly. ATK1097 has asked, question, have you been approached by other YouTube or maybe even TV creators to do a collaboration? Or alternatively, if you were to do a video collaboration, which channel would you do a video with? I don't know whether I can probably tell you this or not. I've done a couple of, last year, I filmed a couple of TV pilots. New car show type things that haven't yet been picked up, although one came close. No, I'm always up for doing some sort of collaboration, I suppose. It would have to fit. I don't like the idea of doing a YouTube collaboration because I just feel like sometimes you're only doing it to try and raise your own profile. It would have to make sense. It would have to be a car that I'm passionate about or they're passionate about that I've got, or it would have to make sense. Otherwise, it just looks a bit false. The other thing to bear in mind is I don't really know any other YouTubers, so you're effectively sitting in a car with a complete stranger, which is fine because that's how you get to meet people. But like I say, there'd have to be a theme, wouldn't there? Right, next question then. Liam Sutcliffe has asked, what's your best car since you've been selling cars, and what car, if any, gave you the most headaches? Well, it isn't if any, it's most of them, to be fair. This is why I've formed this opinion over the years that all cars are unreliable, all cars break, so just buy the car you want, maintain it well, look after it, and just keep a rainy day fun. That's all you can do, because even the most reliable cars, or the most, things that you'd consider the most reliable, can break and cause you headaches. I've constantly got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 headaches on the go with cars that, are costing a fortune to fix. It's just part of the job, unfortunately. I think the best thing to do is not get bogged down with that, which obviously is easier said than done. Louis Gearon 4187 has asked, hi Matt, congrats on the milestone. What's your ultimate dream car and what's your affordable dream car, as in under 20k? Keep up the great work. Cheers, Louis. Affordable dream car. To be fair, £20,000 gets you a lot of car in this country, doesn't it? You could buy something like a Bentley Continental GT. You could probably get a cheap DB9. If you're being a bit more sensible, something like an Audi TTS, that'd be a great car for under 20k. There's loads. There really are loads of options there. My ultimate dream car. I've got several, but they don't keep me awake at night. If I never get them, I'm not that bothered, but I would kind of like them. I've mentioned this before, but a BMW Z8, a Mercedes McLaren SLR, what else? A 1960s Mercedes SL with the pagoda top. They're the 3 that stick out in my mind. The Johnny 1970 has asked, are there any manufacturers who you think have stood the test of time or have made the biggest improvements in their build quality and reliability? Straight away, that's got to be Kia. Their journey's just been incredible. 20 years ago, you wouldn't be seen dead in a Kia, and now they make some of the best cars on the road. So their turnaround is just unbelievable. I can't think of a single other manufacturer that's completely changed their brand. Craig Daly has asked, my question would be, how do you best manage customer expectations on buying a used car when their budget doesn't meet that expectation? Just be blunt. I've had this many times over the years because I'm not really a traditional car salesman. I'm a car geek that's just found myself in the used car business. I will always just be honest with people, and if I don't think they're the right person for the car, or they haven't necessarily got the budget, then I'll just tell them that. I'd honestly rather not sell that car to the wrong person, because it just creates headaches. Oh, this is an interesting one. Right, Smart1450 has said, my question, Noah is up to his tricks again and he's building an ark, a car ark. Which 2 cars are you taking to use on the quiet roads when the floods subside? That's a cool question, isn't it? I would choose the 2 cars that I own. My Range Rover Supercharged, because you might need to wade in some water, mightn't you? And also my SL55. It's a beautiful car, that. You can't beat driving that with the roof down when the sun's out. So they would be my 2 cars. This is a good one. Right, DS Kutis has said, if you were to set up a business like a shop that you would think would be able to handle and make the same amount of money as a car dealer does, what would it be? I don't think, or I can't think of one. That's the good thing about the car business. You can set it up on day one and straight away you can turn a profit. Whereas with a restaurant or a shop, you spend thousands and thousands of pounds kitting it out. Then you've got to hope that customers walk through your door. Whereas with the car business, you're advertising a car rather than your own business. Do you know what I mean? So someone is always going to come and buy that car. mcook999 has said, my question is, do you ever worry or stress about the condition of your own personal cars, e.g. living in a car park or driving down a narrow country lane? Do you have any tips or advice for dealing with it? My tip would be, or advice would be, life's too short. There are more important things in life than a door ding. Yes, it's annoying, and yes, it's your pride and joy, but does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? I don't think it does, really. Just live your life, enjoy yourself. Saying that, I always do try and park in the furthest car park spot away from the shop so that no one opens the door onto it. But if I can't, then, whatever. DS or DShez 8240 has said, congratulations. So you're obviously a person who keeps setting new goals for yourself to achieve. What's your 5-year plan today? I change my mind a lot. So I just think so long as I'm growing as a person, a business, my actual goals do move around a lot. I'm not one of those to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the other. I'd rather just kind of quietly be working away in the background and then achieve it. So I'd rather keep my 5-year plan to myself, if that's all right. EggyDo3904 has said, I've heard you mention in some videos that you're becoming somewhat less interested in cars over your time. Do you see yourself slowly phasing out in the future? It's a difficult one. Some days I'd love to. Some days I'd love to just turn my phone off, shut the doors and just never touch a car ever again. But I don't know how long I could last, because I love cars. They're my passion, really. They're my hobby. So I like always having my toe in the water of that world, even though I don't like that world most of the time, if I'm honest. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. I would always feel like I'm missing out, I think, if I weren't involved in some capacity. I'd like ideally to revamp my site, maybe have another site perhaps as well, and have a manager or a couple of managers or a team in there that would just kind of manage it, and I wouldn't necessarily need to deal with the stress or be there every single day. That would be the goal, I suppose, because then I've got the best of both worlds, and I can still go and see what's going on and borrow cars and, see what's going on, but I wouldn't have any of the negative things. So maybe that. Martin Lockwood 2190 has said, what's the most expensive or most prestigious car you've ever sold? Thanks, Martin. There have been a few, but that's not really my stock profile. I tend to keep 15 grand or less value cars. I've had my fair share of, we sold a Aston Martin Rapide S, a DB7, a Range Rovers, Mercedes S-Class, loads of cars like that, but I tend not to purposely buy expensive cars like that because I don't have much success with them, to be honest. Zorb7171 has said, what are your thoughts on performance estates? Do you have a favourite one? Yes, I love performance estates, but I don't think I'd ever own one really, because I just think it's a bit of a drug dealer car, isn't it? The RS6, there's no denying it, is a fantastic car. They're brilliant. I love driving them. I think they look really cool and they're really practical. But you just look like a successful drug dealer. And I also think you're going to get your front door smashed in for it. So I don't think I'd ever buy one. Jason Robinson 1712 has said, my question is, have you always been into cars and been brought up around cars? Yeah, I've always loved cars for as long as I can remember. I was always obsessed with them as a kid. I always knew the latest cars and knew all the details about them. My dad was always into cars. He never sold them as such, but he'd always change his cars every 6 months or so. So I think that's kind of rubbed off on me, really. Jimmy Boy 1975 has said, I love your I bought a cheap videos. Thank you. My question is, I've lost track of which cars you personally own. What are they all and which ones would you keep if you had to get rid of others? I'm hoping I don't need to get rid of any, really, because I really think variety is the best thing. I'd love to have a dozen different cars that I could use, all taxed, all insured, that I could use on various days. Having said that, my collection at the moment isn't very varied. They're all very similar. So I've got my white Range Rover 5 litre supercharged. I've got a 2002 full 4.4 litre Range Rover Vogue, which I love. I love the L322, and I particularly like the early pre-facelift L322. I've also got a 2006 4.4 litre Vogue, which is the later Jaguar engine. Very similar, but a little different. So that's the four-wheel drive, so I've got 3 of those. And then I've got 3 Mercedes. My AMG GTS, which I love because it's just... I don't like using it on a daily basis, to be honest, anymore. You need to be in the right mood to drive it because it's a bit of a handful. There's that. Then I've got an SL55, 2002 SL55, which I adore. That was just one of those cars that I wanted when I was a kid and obviously could never afford or even drive. So that's going nowhere. And I've also got a 1995 SL320, which I also love for different reasons. So yeah, my collection consists of Range Rovers and Mercedes SLs, basically. It isn't the most valuable collection in the world, but I like it. I'd like to add some sort of V12 to that. An Aston Martin DB9, DBS, Virage, DB11, I don't know, I'm not sure, but one day I would like to add a V12 to that. Phil Brooks has said, I hope running your own business doesn't take over your entire life. I'm speaking from experience. It can do, can't it? Which is the most comfortable car for a long journey? Any sort of executive limo, an S-Class, Audi A8, Jaguar XJ, something like that. You can't beat them. Adam Gorse has said, what are your thoughts on Ford axing the beloved Fiesta? Should they have gone the electric route like Vauxhall and Peugeot did? I mean, they work off data, don't they? So they obviously know it wasn't a mistake, but I personally think it was a big mistake. They've replaced it with the Puma, I think, which is like the best-selling car in the UK, which is a little bland crossover. The last Fiesta, I lose track of marks now, is it the Mark 8? Had a Fiat gearbox and stuff and it wasn't very good, but the shape before that, which ran from 09 to 16, 17, that was a really good car. I think it is a mistake, to be honest, a massive mistake. And when we've all gone electric from 2030 onwards, I hope that doesn't happen, but it's looking like it is going to. Young people or people without a huge budget just won't be able to buy a cheap car anymore. They won't be there. You won't be able to buy a Fiesta for £3,000 or £2,000 anymore. So I think that will be a problem. Ben Spriggs has asked, as the motor industry moves to fully electric, will your business adapt to meet the needs? If so, what are your thoughts about second-hand electric vehicles, and will you switch to niche market like classic cars? Possibly. I might have to move because, move my my stock profile. Because I don't... Listen, electric cars are okay for certain people with, a certain amount of money. But every time I get one in stock, they never sell, and I always end up selling them for a huge loss. So I don't think there's a business there, to be honest. I really don't. I've tried, and it doesn't work. Possibly, I would like to sell modern classics, but I just think if I sell 30 or 40 cars a month right now, how many niche modern classic or classic cars am I going to sell a month? Half a dozen? There wouldn't be enough profit there to pay for the overheads, so there wouldn't be a business. As much as I'd like to go into a showroom or a garage every morning and, look at all the modern classics, realistically, I don't think there's a business there. And also, where do you buy them from? You're going to have loads more time wasters, I think, just having a look and a nosy and wandering in saying, oh, my dad had one of those and all that sort of stuff, which is fine, but again, that doesn't bring you profit. So, I don't know. Don't know on that one, Ben. Sheikh Abdulaziz has asked, my question would be, how do you push through your biggest business doubts? That's a good... I might do a video about this, actually. My biggest sort of, doubts or weaknesses or whatever you want to call it. Because I do have quite a few. I think when you've got to be very self-reliant, haven't you, when you work for yourself? There's nobody there to help you or pick up the pieces, so ultimately, I think you've just got to, sometimes you've got to be a little bit bullheaded. I guess that's what it is, really. My biggest business doubts, I'm going to do a separate video on this because I can't really answer that in 30 seconds. Tom Harding 149 has said, "Hi Matt, I'm an avid fan for a long time, ever since I watched the Bentley Continental video. Anyway, don't feel obliged to answer, as I know it's a very personal matter, but how does money generated from your YouTube channel help to grow your other business? Or do you just reinvest it into the channel?" That's a good question, actually, really, isn't it? To be honest, the majority of the money that I earn right now, I try and reinvest into property, which is why I set up another channel, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm always okay. That's basically my main concern really at the moment. But of course I lend money occasionally to High Peak Autos and vice versa if I need to buy a car. So the real trick, I think, I've always read this and always heard this, and now I'm experiencing it for myself, is you need multiple sources of income. And now I've got that, I can see why that works, because you've got multiple sources of income. So you can borrow from different businesses. When that business isn't performing very well, you can borrow from that one and vice versa. So that really is the answer. But I guess with the YouTube channel now, I've got overheads, I've got an office, I've got a team that need paying and all that sort of stuff. So that creates a little bit of pressure. So I need to keep making the videos in order to pay that. But then any profit that I make gets pumped into High Peak Autos or into the property business. So yeah, each business kind of feeds one another. So it all works. It all works. BL Jack 3231 has asked, if a car manufacturer could make a modern remake of any car, what would it be? That's a good question, isn't it? I follow a few car pages on Instagram that do like mock-ups of, that kind of thing, and they're interesting to see. I can't think of any one in particular off the top of my head, but I'd say something with pop-up headlights. I'd like to see how that would work. Marco Pazlo has said, have you ever considered having your own in-house mechanic and valeter to fix up the cars you buy? Yes, but where I'm based at the moment, the garage just isn't big enough. So I just don't have the space for a ramp or a valet bay or that sort of stuff. It would create more pressure, but obviously I think long term it would save me some money, save me an awful lot of money, I think. It's something for the future, isn't it? But not at that current site that I'm at. It just wouldn't work. The Red Devil 84 has put, I hope you're not a United fan, has put, well done on the 300k. Quick question, should I prioritise age or mileage? This is always a big question, isn't it? It depends. If you're going to use something on a daily basis, I'd say go for newer, higher mileage, because you'll get, better safety equipment, better tech, all that sort of stuff. But you can't beat a nice low mileage car. I bought several recently, and you can't beat them because they're like time capsules. Personally, I'd have a lower mileage, older car, but we're all different. It depends what you're using it for, really. Okay, Jodash Narandis has said, this is a very silly question, but I've always wondered how tall you are. Anyway, congrats on the milestone. 5'10", 5'11", depending who's asking. MRT 1878 has said, I've watched your vids since the beginning. I'd be interested to know if you would walk away from your successes for an acting role, which I think was your original ambition. Yes, it was my original ambition. I don't know. It would depend on the role, wouldn't it? Because I quite enjoy doing what I'm doing now. Before all this, before I started High Peak Autos, I've mentioned this in another video, I got quite close to a job on a soap, along like a 2 or 3 year contract on a soap, and I really wanted that role and I didn't get it. If I were offered that role today, I don't think I'd take it, because I quite like being my own boss. Not that I've got any sort of issue with authority, but I like going, where I want, when I want. And I don't know if I'd like having to be somewhere at a certain time. So I don't know. Be careful what you wish for, I guess. Michael Lavin has said, hi Matt, I once heard you say that if your car's odometer has a blip in the timeline due to an incorrect mileage input at the MOT, it can be rectified. Can you explain briefly how that can be done? You've only got a 2-week window. So if an MOT tester enters the wrong mileage at the MOT, you've got 14 days to take it back, and then they can rectify it. Any longer than that, it's a permanent stain on the car's history, unfortunately. Datan KK, apologies if I'm saying that wrong. What's the next car you're thinking of getting for your mum after the last few? She's got a Lexus NX at the moment, a blue one, which she loves. And I don't think there's anything better. She loves it. It's a really nice car. Yeah, I don't think there's anything better. Although, having said that, I saw a TV advert the other day for the new Lexus RZ, is it? I don't know. It's like an SUV thing, but with a sloping back, and it's quite a good-looking car, so maybe one of those. But I'll have to wait until they depreciate a little bit. I think they're probably 60 grand new, so a massive leap. John Andrews 7254 has asked, with your commitments, do you enjoy hobbies of sorts? No, really, only because I don't have time. I'd like to. I used to play golf a bit, but I haven't played for 10 years or so. Yeah, I don't know. One day I'd like to have some time and take up some more hobbies, I suppose. Billy Mills 1370 has asked, congratulations, Matt, you deserve it. Thank you. I love your honesty and work ethic. I'm thinking about buying a Jaguar XE R Sport manual. What do you think? What do I need to look out for? The engines. The more, I used to think they were okay, but the more I work with these, that Ingenium engine can be quite problematic. It needs to have regular oil changes every 6,000 or 8,000 miles. If it hasn't, then you could be into timing chain issues and all sorts. Also, I don't particularly like the manual gearbox. You're better off with an auto. So if you're looking for one, try and get a nice low mileage one, service it properly and frequently, and go for an auto. In all honesty though, you're probably better off going for a 3 Series. Sad to say, but that's probably the truth. Amato5232 has said, would you ever do a video like a week in the life of the garage? What's come in, what's been sold, what went wrong, what went right, etc. That would be quite interesting, really. Yeah, I should look into that. It would take quite a bit of filming, wouldn't it, really? But, that's a good idea. David Claiborne has said, hi Matt, congrats on the 300k. My question is, I think you'd be a great TV presenter. Would you ever present a TV car show like Fifth Gear, Top Gear, etc.? Yeah, sure. It would be, I grew up watching those kinds of shows, so it would be a massive honour and achievement, wouldn't it, to do something like that? So, absolutely I would. I suppose it would depend on the deal, wouldn't it? Because I wouldn't want to give up all my liberty. Because like right now, I do what I want when I want, really. Although it's always work related. I wouldn't want to give that up as such. I don't know, it'd depend on the deal, wouldn't it? Right, I think this will be the last one then. I'm sorry if I haven't got to them, but this one's quite a nice one to end on. So, Nigel Playford has said, nice one Matt, 300k, great stuff. Good to see things are going so well. My 3 boys love your videos, as do I. If you could say hi to the Playfords, you'd be making me Dad of the Year, so keep up the great work. Well, hello to the Playfords, thank you for watching. Right, well thank you for watching as always, but before I disappear, you're probably wondering what my free giveaway is. Well, I've got 3 tickets for the Day 1 event at the Goodwood Festival of Speed on the, I think it's the 13th of July. I'll leave the details in the video description below. I'll be there and I'm quite excited because I've never been to the Goodwood Festival of Speed before. So to enter, all you need to do is click the link below in the video description and follow the instructions for a free entry. Each viewer can have multiple entries just by clicking on the options. The competition's now live and it will run until 4 PM on the 11th of July. So good luck, and thank you once again for your support over the years. I really appreciate it. Cheers guys, see you later.